The shuttlecraft descended through wispy clouds toward the verdant surface of Kepler 452b. Captain Daniel Silva gazed out the window in awe at the alien landscape rolled out before them. Lush green forests and snaking rivers reminded him of documentaries about the Amazon rainforest back on Earth. Yet the two suns, one large and yellow, one smaller and red, cast an otherworldly glow across the alien terrain. This was the culmination of the Centauri mission, the first manned expedition beyond the confines of the solar system. It had taken 6 long cryosleep-filled years to reach this potentially habitable exoplanet orbiting a star very similar to Earth's own sun. Initial unmanned probes had detected tantalizing signs of chlorophyll and liquid surface water, hints that this world might harbor life. Now, it was up to Daniel and his intrepid crew to find out. As the shuttlecraft broke through the cloud layer, Daniel spotted something else remarkable through the cockpit window, something the probes had somehow missed. Dotting the landscape were small settlements, clusters of structures too geometrically regular to be natural formations. "There are signs of habitation on the surface," he reported, surprise and excitement filling his voice. The crew floated over to peer eagerly out the windows. Sure enough, one settlement in particular stood out, a collection of towers and domed buildings encircling an open square. "Could that be a city?" exclaimed geologist Li Chen, his eyes wide behind his glasses. "Are we about to make first contact?" A thrill of anticipation ran through the entire crew. Daniel maneuvered the shuttle to a clearing on the outskirts of the apparent city. As the landing thrusters kicked up swirls of emerald grass, he spotted a group of bipedal beings exiting one of the domed structures. They walked on 2 legs and had 2 arms like humans. But even from this distance, Daniel could see they were clearly not Homo sapiens. Their bald heads sat directly atop their torsos, with no visible neck separation. Still, he had to stop himself from referring to them out loud as aliens. Strictly speaking, his crew were the aliens on this planet. After settling gently onto the alien soil, Daniel and Lai prepared to venture out and initiate contact while the others monitored from inside. Protocols dictated they approach openly but cautiously, not knowing how the Keplerians might react. Daniel tried not to fret over the innumerable ways this first encounter might go catastrophically wrong. "Let's just hope we don't end up melting their faces off," Lee muttered, echoing Daniel's worries as they waited by the airlock in their bulbous EVA suits. First contact situations were notoriously prone to misunderstandings after all. And they still knew so very little about these beings. At last, the airlock cycled open. Daniel stepped gingerly down the landing ramp, boots sinking into soft alien grass. Butterflies swarmed in his stomach, though whether from excitement or anxiousness he couldn't say. In the distance, the group of Keplerians had frozen, watching the visitors emerge from their craft. He raised a gloved hand in what he hoped was a peaceful gesture. For a long moment, the scene held still, human and Keplerian alike waiting to see who might make the next move. Finally, one of the bald aliens began striding purposefully toward Daniel and Lai. The Keplerian drew steadily closer until stopping abruptly just a few meters away. Deep-set eyes and a tiny nose-less face gazed over their spacesuits with unreadable obsidian orbs. Daniel noticed the alien had 5 thick digits on each hand. He waited with bated breath to see if it would attempt communication. Suddenly, the Keplerian opened its mouth and spoke in perfectly fluent English. "Welcome, visitors. We have been expecting you." Daniel almost jumped out of his EVA suit in shock. This was well beyond their wildest expectations. You speak our language," he stammered. "How?" The alien's mouth split into a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of bright white teeth. But of course it replied cheerily, "We may look different on the outside, but beneath our skin, we are the same people." Daniel's mind reeled, struggling to parse this bizarre declaration. Lai finally managed to vocalize the question burning inside him. "I'm sorry, the same people. What exactly do you mean by that?" His voice echoed tinnily over their suit radios. The Keplerian gave them an apologetic smile. "Please accept our deepest apologies for not welcoming you straight away. We wanted to ensure you came completely of your own accord, without any of our unintentional influence." The extraterrestrial gestured invitingly back toward the alien city. "Please, if you would accompany us to Capital Prime, all will be made clear." Daniel exchanged an incredulous look with Lee before signaling to the shuttle that they were proceeding into the city. As they fell into step behind their Keplerian guide, Daniel continued probing gently for more information. "So, I don't suppose you'd care to explain how you already speak our language?" The stocky, bald alien chuckled softly. "Well, we ought to. It is our own ancestral language, even if some of the vocabulary has shifted over the millennia." Daniel felt like he had wandered into some bizarre dream. Nothing the alien said lined up with the expected first contact scenarios he had trained for years to navigate. Lai finally blurted out in dismay, "I'm sorry, I'm completely lost. Just who are your people exactly?" Their guide paused and turned back to look at them sorrowfully. "We are all children of Earth, of course. We are your descendants." For several long seconds, Daniel couldn't find any words at all. The gears in his brain spun uselessly in the mental fog. When he finally got his mouth working again, all he could manage was a profoundly eloquent, "Huh." The Keplerian gave them a sympathetic smile. "Come, let us continue to the Historium. The elders will help explain everything with that." The alien set off once more toward the central cluster of buildings, leaving Daniel and Lee trailing numbly behind. As they entered the city proper, Daniel noticed up close that the architecture possessed an undeniably human allure. Doors and windows followed familiar forms, roofs peaked at familiar angles. The materials were alien, but the design fundamentals tugged at some primal part of his mind, suggesting kinship with his own kind. Other Keplerians milled about the central square and gardens, clad in shimmering robes. A few called friendly greetings, the English words echoing bizarrely in Daniel's ears. One group of small, bald children even waved enthusiastically before an adult hastened them into a low-domed building. The industrious hum of the community felt instinctively familiar, like he had stumbled into a city park back on Earth on a pleasant Sunday afternoon. Their guide led Daniel and Lee through a gracefully arching tunnel into the largest hillside structure. There a small party of elder Keplerians awaited them. The aliens bowed solemnly in greeting. "Welcome, visitors. We have awaited this reunion for many lifetimes. Please make yourselves comfortable so we may explain." Still reeling mentally, Daniel accepted one of the curved benches extended like gnarled tree roots from the floor. He removed his helmet gingerly, sniffing the pleasantly floral scents wafting through the spacious hall. Their Keplerian hosts gathered quietly around them. At last the eldest began to speak. "First, please allow me to express our people's deepest joy at this reunion with our ancestral mother world. My name is Eldest Delanus. We are members of the Council of Elders for Capital Prime, first city in this colony region." Delanus folded his hands respectfully before continuing. "Now, you are no doubt quite confused by our apparent familiarity with human culture. To comprehend this, you must know something of the history of your own planet." Daniel sat numbly as the tale unfolded, scarcely believing his ears even as the fantastic account shed light on so many nagging questions. "Many thousands of years ago," Delanus explained, "near the end of Earth's last ice age, a rift had opened within the highest circles of power among some human kingdoms. A splinter faction known as the Centauri migration movement resolved to expand out into the stars, rather than fighting endlessly over diminishing terrestrial resources. Using means since lost to antiquity, they constructed vast arc ships capable of relativistic speeds to search for a new home among the heavens. When the migrants set out to found colonies on new worlds, they had brought more than just advanced propulsion technology. Using techniques long since banned on present-day Earth, they had extensively bioengineered themselves to adapt to the array of exoplanets they surveyed. Only the deep coding of their genome and language remained inviolate, preserving an enduring connection to their ancestral mother world. Over the passing millennia, periodic catastrophes had cut off the fledgling interstellar human settlements from each other. As knowledge faded to superstition then myth, each world's colonists eventually forgot their shared origins entirely. But here, on Kepler, the Centauri migrants' purpose lived on through the unbroken lineages of elders like Delanus. They had waited impatiently down through the ages for the arrival of this prophesied reunion with their ancestral planet. Daniel sat in astonished silence, struggling to absorb this galaxy-shattering revelation. That first wave of interstellar human expansion had originated over 10,000 years ago on Earth, long before the first stones of the earliest Egyptian pyramids had even been laid. Modern humanity had forgotten so much more than he could ever have imagined. At long last, he managed to find his voice again. Why? Why did you never try to contact Earth before this? Surely with starflight capability, you must have known where we were. Delanus sighed heavily, his bulbous head drooping with sudden sorrow. Alas, when we first achieved our own interstellar travel capabilities some 3,000 years ago, we discovered a great tragedy had befallen the worlds of men. Though we searched extensively, all the other colonies descended from Earth had regressed to utter primitivity. Some had even bombed there. Civilizations back to barbarism during vicious resource wars. They possessed not even rudimentary radio signatures for us to detect. My deepest apologies, Delanus lamented, but we concluded Earth itself must have suffered similar calamity. It pained us greatly to consider mankind so reduced, their spread across the stars collapsed utterly. The elder shook his head mournfully at opportunities lost. Thus we had long ago abandoned hope of reuniting with our ancestral home, focusing instead on preserving what smoldering embers remained here. Daniel sat stunned at this revelation, moved by the unexpected poignancy of so much lost human potential spanning the ages. Before he could ask further questions, eldest Delanus clapped his hands together excitedly. But enough dwelling on past sorrows. You stand before us now as living proof that Earth survived after all. Humanity has pulled itself up not just to radio transmissions, but even interstellar travel itself. You cannot imagine what joyous day this is for all of us, foretold for generations. The elder's obsidian eyes shone with sudden moisture. Delanus reached out to gently grasp Daniel and Lai's hands, enfolding them in his warm five-fingered grip. Take heart, brave voyagers. This blessed day shall mark a new age of universal human cooperation across the stars. No longer need your people and ours wander alone in the endless night. The elder smiled radiantly through tears of joy. This wondrous occasion calls for the greatest feast on Kepler in over 3,000 years. Come, come, let all be made welcome. As Daniel allowed himself to be ushered off toward a celebratory banquet, still struggling to process these universe-shaking revelations, one thought kept swirling back up from his overloaded brain. We had spread so much farther than any of us had ever dreamed. Later, as the feast wound down, Daniel stepped out onto a secluded veranda overlooking the city. His mind churned with fantastical visions of revitalized interstellar human civilization spanning the Milky Way once more, regaining an interstellar footprint that had lain forgotten for eons. Lee stepped out quietly to join him at the carved stone railing. For a while the two men simply stood in awed silence, staring up at the alien night sky, where two bright stars shone as stellar beacons for mankind's future. At last Lai turned and placed a gentle hand on Daniel's shoulder. It seems the human adventure through the cosmos has only just begun. Daniel nodded slowly, new waves of determination stealing his spirit. And this time, we will make sure our footfalls into the galaxy endure. He lifted his glass in solemn toast toward those two beckoning suns. Now, more than ever, he felt the true spirit of exploration calling him and humanity onward to worlds beyond worlds. Their shared destiny among the stars,